So you think you have what it takes to become top dog? And pocket a cool 10 grand?
I think I will win it.
Could you spend a whole 2 days with a team of strangers?
I really did feel like I was on the brink.
And then have the balls to weed out their weaknesses?
I don't think so.
Could you make them squirm in front of millions?
Revenge is sweet.
Force them to perform tasks you know they'll fail?
I am going to be completely ruthless in that studio.
Could you be the most manipulative lowlife to walk the face of the planet?
Joanne is a bit of a pain in the backside, to be honest.
Because let me tell you, in here, it's dog eat dog.
Dog eat dog.
Come on, Snoop.
Saturday, 6:55, BBC One.
Next!
Only the ruthless survive.
Now on BBC One, the news with Darren Jordan.
A woman is killed after she chased thieves who stole her handbag. She was run over as she threw herself on their getaway car. A big explosion rocks the Conoco oil refinery near Grimsby. And extra police are on the streets of Bradford after last night's violence. Good evening. Police in London are hunting 2 thieves who snatched a woman's handbag and then killed her by running her over. The 42-year-old woman was in a coffee shop at London's Euston Station when the thieves struck. She chased them out onto a nearby street and was killed as she tried to stop them making a getaway. Police have described it as an absolutely horrendous incident.
The woman and her husband had been drinking in this coffee shop on Euston Station. The 2 suspects grabbed her handbag and ran off. The woman gave chase, running out of the cafe and down these steps. The thieves jumped into a white Ford Fiesta and drove off, but the woman then jumped onto the bonnet to stop them. The driver apparently tried to swerve to throw her off. She fell off and was run over. Tonight, police told a news conference she later died of her injuries and that this was now a murder inquiry.
The lady who would appear to have been going about her own business, drinking coffee on a station, a busy station concourse, and for this to happen is just horrendous, absolutely awful.
The woman's husband is now being comforted by family and friends. Detectives are looking at closed-circuit television pictures from cameras inside Euston Station to see if they recorded the incident. They're also checking on who owns the Fiesta, which was found abandoned nearby. Police have already started to carry out a forensic examination of the Ford Fiesta. They say they're looking for a white man and white woman in their mid to late 20s. Duncan Kennedy, BBC News in North London.
There's been an explosion at an oil refinery near Grimsby. Around 50 firefighters were needed to bring the blaze under control. 2 people suffered minor injuries. 1 casualty was inside the plant near Immingham, while the other was a nearby resident.
Local people thought a bomb had gone off. The explosion at Conoco's Immingham refinery was felt more than 5 miles away. It sent clouds of black smoke into the air.
The roof was shook and all the windows went, and of course we jumped up, went outside, and everybody was making the way to the street.
I heard a hissing sound first off. It must have been for about 3-4 minutes, and then the explosion, and then a fireball. It must have gone about 100 feet, 200 feet. It was unbelievable.
As firefighters converged on the plant, their priority was to prevent the flames spreading to the rest of the refinery. The explosion happened in a section of the plant which produces propane and butane for domestic use. The fire burned for about 2 hours, causing widespread damage to part of the refinery.
This type of thing, you always have to be able to deal with it. We have a very well-trained staff to deal with these kinds of situations. Luckily, we don't have to deal with them very often.
Before today, this plant had an excellent safety record, but people who work in refineries or live nearby have the constant fear that something might go wrong. They're thankful that this incident caused only a couple of minor injuries. Kevin Bouquet, BBC News, Immingham.
Extra police are on patrol in Bradford after several hours of violent disturbances last night. 8 people were injured and 3 people were arrested after around 100 youths fought in the streets in the Lidgett Green area of the city. 2 pubs were damaged and several cars were set alight.
The violence was destructive and vicious, beginning around this public house as an Indian wedding party took place. Gangs of youths clashed outside before the premises were attacked and every vehicle in the car park set on fire. Local people complained that police were slow to respond as the violence spread, but officers were attacked with missiles and had to wait for reinforcements to arrive with riot equipment.
It'll be some days before we have a full and clear picture of the events of yesterday evening. We seem to have mixed age ranges and mixed races involved at this stage.
As detectives began to gather evidence for possible prosecutions, the people of this inner-city suburb relived the night of violence.
Then there was such a bang and all the windows went. And I'm saying to her, get under the table. And with that, I don't remember no else because I got a hit on the back of the head and my husband fell over me.
I don't like what's happened. I mean, they didn't have a right to come here and, start the trouble. We were living okay, no trouble, nothing.
While shopkeepers repaired the damage, community leaders met senior police officers to discuss ways of preventing further disturbances.
The police have said they're going to step up police presence around the area. Also, the youth service have committed themselves to send youth workers out to speak to the young people and see what they can do.
West Yorkshire Police say there'll be extra patrols in the area tonight and there'll be a thorough investigation of what caused this night of violence. John Thorne, BBC News, Lidget Green, Bradford.
The government's chief scientist says a decision must be taken within days on whether to vaccinate cattle against foot and mouth disease. Professor David King says vaccination would help slow the progress of the disease, but ministers have yet to decide. In Northern Ireland, where a third case has been confirmed, the executive has been holding an emergency session to discuss the crisis.
What have you come to tell farmers here today?
The arrival of the government's chief scientist in Cumbria is a clear sign that ministers are preparing the way for vaccination. Inside, Professor King spent more than 2 hours trying to reassure local farmers that a limited vaccination scheme would help. It's a last resort, but he believes it may be the only option to save 500,000 cattle still trapped in winter sheds and now running out of feed.
The whole basis of the vaccination is to keep those animals alive and standing at the end of this epidemic. The control of the epidemic is going to be left to the policy of cull.
The government is already storing supplies of vaccine, but ministers who met this morning have not yet made a decision on whether to use it. They still have to convince sceptical farmers who fear their produce would be boycotted.
Unfortunately, he was not able to answer many of our questions. He will be taking back our concerns to London and no doubt be reaching a conclusion after that. But he fully understood the concerns of all sectors of Cumbrian farming, and there are many concerns relating to the short-term problems together with the long-term future of our industry.
The number of new cases is down, but areas which hope to see the last of the disease are still being infected. In Northern Ireland, troops were called in for the first time to help with the slaughter after a third case was confirmed. Slaughter remains the government's priority, but the residents of Hullsworthy in Devon show there's still opposition. They're angry at plans to burn thousands of animals just outside the town. The debate about vaccination has been going on for over a month now, with ministers being accused of dithering and of creating confusion. But tonight, the government appears to be closer to making a final decision, and a limited vaccination programme could be given the go-ahead within the next few days. Jonathan Beale, BBC News, at the Ministry of Agriculture.
At least 3 Syrian soldiers have been killed in an Israeli attack on a radar station in Lebanon. Syria said the airstrike represented a serious escalation of tension in the region. But Israel says the action showed it would not tolerate recent mortar attacks by Syrian-backed Hezbollah guerrillas. The bombing of the station in the mountains east of Beirut was the first action by Israel against Syrian forces in Lebanon for 5 years.
A nighttime strike that has shaken the Middle East. Israel hits Syrian targets deep inside Lebanon. A risky move, Arab states say a step on the road to a wider war. A conflict that could drag in far more than these Israeli border troops. They pounded Hezbollah on Saturday after an Israeli soldier was killed. But Syria calls the shots with 35,000 troops in Lebanon. Israel claims it isn't lifting a finger to stop Hezbollah.
Syria has been giving more than just a green light to the recent attacks against Israel. Syria is becoming the conduit of weaponry and support for Hezbollah in this continuing struggle against Israel.
No surprise then that Israel's hardline leader went for a tough response. Ariel Sharon meeting his cabinet today as concerns grew across the region about what might come next. In Gaza, no let-up. Palestinian militants showing off their training and their firepower. Posing as suicide bombers, there's nothing left of the peace process here but wreckage. This was the latest Palestinian attack, mortars which penetrated deeper inside Israel than ever before. Israel retaliating by tank fire on Palestinian positions. So Israel is fighting now on two fronts, against the Palestinians and its neighbours to the north. Much depends on how Syria responds, and so far it has taken no action. But there are fears that the conflict here could spread. Orla Gearan, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Football now, and in the Premiership, Liverpool have just won a thrilling Merseyside derby against Everton by 3-2. Emile Heskey scored the first goal of the game early in the first half. The result means Liverpool move up to 5th, while Everton remain in danger near the bottom of the table. You can see highlights of that game on Match of the Day on BBC One at 10:55 later tonight. Also featured will be the day's 4 other Premiership games between Coventry and Sunderland, Derby and Leicester, Middlesbrough and Ipswich, and Newcastle and West Ham. If you don't want to know the scores in those games, then look away now. In the nationwide First Division, Fulham, who'd already won promotion to the Premiership, will go up as champions. A late goal from Sean Davis gave them the point they needed in a 1-1 draw at home to Sheffield Wednesday. Meanwhile, Blackburn maintained their hopes of securing the second automatic promotion spot after a 2-0 win over Huddersfield at Ewood Park. Matt Jansen scored the decisive second goal late on. Elsewhere, referee collapsed and died after suffering a suspected heart attack during the third division match between Southend and Mansfield. Mike North received emergency treatment on the pitch before being taken to hospital. The match was abandoned. In Rugby League, the Bradford Bulls are the new leaders of the Super League after a 35-24 victory over Wigan Warriors. The Bulls scored 5 tries in all, the last of them a solo effort from Robbie Paul, as they replaced their opponents at the top of the table. Well, that's the latest. There'll be news on the hour, every hour throughout the night over on BBC News 24. But from us, good night.
Hello, good evening. Some fine spring sunshine in western areas today, but cold and cloudy for the east coast. And this next system is going to bring some changes as well. Rain moving into the north tonight, but with clearer, colder weather to the south, we are expecting some patchy frost. So a cold start to the day tomorrow, but a sunny one in many southern areas. A lovely morning. But in the north, we will have that rain becoming heavier and more persistent through the morning, and then gradually slipping its way southwards through the afternoon. And then a change again in the north with some winter showers following. For most of us tomorrow, we'll have westerly winds, so a little bit milder, 13 Celsius for London and Cardiff. To the north, we'll start to see some colder air digging in, and in fact quite a strong northerly wind developing and spilling right down across Scotland through tomorrow evening. Now that northerly wind is going to be with us for the rest of the week. So again, we've got that chilly April weather with us lasting into next weekend. It will bring with it a mixture of sunshine and heavy showers. That's really what we've had over the Easter holidays. So the heaviest showers across eastern parts of Scotland and England, the best of the sun out to the west, and hopefully a bit better for many of us come Friday. But some chilly nights this week with some frost. That's it.
The crowds, the adrenaline, the pressure. He's used to all that. The aching muscles, the burning lungs. It's just another day at the office for the world's greatest Olympian. There is one thing worrying him though.
Being beaten by my wife.
Watch Steve Redgrave take on the world and his wife in the London Marathon. Sunday from 8:45 live on BBC One.
This is BBC One for the Midlands.
Good evening, I'm Michael Colley.
3 men have been injured by a samurai-type sword in an incident outside a bar. One of the doormen at the bar in Cheltenham needed stitches to his hand and arm. Tim Atkinson reports.
The incident happened outside Jay's Bar in Regent Street in Cheltenham between 9 and 10 o'clock last night. 2 doormen, one aged 27, the other aged 34, had to be taken to hospital, suffering from cuts from what police describe as a samurai-like sword. Gloucestershire police say one doorman had to have 9 stitches. The other escaped with only minor injuries. A passer-by also suffered a deep laceration to one of his fingers. All of them have now been released from hospital. A 21-year-old local man has been charged with 2 counts of wounding and 1 count of attempted wounding. He's due to appear before Cheltenham magistrates tomorrow morning.
A generator which may be covered with the foot and mouth virus has been stolen from an infected farm. The machine was being used at Little Worley in Staffordshire to power disinfecting equipment. A teenager has been remanded in custody, charged in connection with a shooting incident in which 2 people were injured. It happened in Barnes Green near Birmingham on Saturday. 19-year-old James Matthews, who lives at the Paddocks on the outskirts of the village, has been charged with wounding, causing actual bodily harm and firearms offences. Now, it's been a busy bank holiday for football and a vital day for the bottom of the Premiership. Coventry City were thrown a lifeline in their relegation battle with a 1-0 win against Sunderland, and an important win for Derby, beating Leicester 2-0. In Division 1, it was a no-score draw for Birmingham City at home to Portsmouth, and West Bromwich Albion lost 1-0 to Grimsby. In the Nationwide Division 2, Port Vale beat Swansea 1-0. Division 3 and Cheltenham had a 2-2 draw away to Blackpool. Kidderminster Harriers beat Plymouth Argyle 3-0 and Shrewsbury Town had a no-score draw away at Torquay. In the Nationwide Conference, it finished 1-1 between Forest Green and Hereford United. Hensford lost 3-0 at home to Nuneaton Borough and Telford beat Kingstonian 1-0. And finally, rugby in the Zurich Premiership, Gloucester lost away to London Irish 10-35. And that's it for now. We're back to our normal times tomorrow. Bulletins throughout breakfast and Midlands today at 1:30 in the afternoon and 6:30 in the evening. I'll be here with Sue Beardsmore then. Hope you can join us. For now, bye-bye.
If you've experienced life and you're always willing to have a go,
you might not be quite as young as you used to be.
But you've still got plenty to say.
Then your BBC local radio station wants to hear from you.
And you could end up hosting your own show.
For more information, call BBC Talent on 08705 100 700.
7 separate stories told through the eyes of a murderer.
I just went to bed. And when I woke up, it was there.
Starring David Suchet, Steve McFadden, Kevin Whately and Timothy West.
Any man who loved his wife would have done the same.
What does it take?
We can do it and live with ourselves afterwards.
To take a life.
You're a nurse, I'm a teacher. We're not like that.
You've already killed a man, Dad.
Motive.
Leave my wife alone.
Opportunity.
We're all here, we're all involved.
And murder in mind.
Alan Squires just moved in next door.
Shut up! Shut up!
Starts Sunday at 9 on BBC One.
I didn't do it.
Eminem, yes, that was 2001, and that's where it really all started for me. It was quite a change of image, but the public really went with it, and my first rap album went platinum. The other two got frightfully jealous, and I don't know what happened to them, really. I think Angus went off to America, didn't he?
Well, I like living in Montana. People have self-respect up here in the mountains. You know, sometimes you just have to take a stand.
Have I Got News for You starts Friday at 9 on BBC One.
It's a new digital service. It's called BBC Texts. You can access the information you want surprisingly easily, while still watching your favourite programme.
I'm going out for a paper.
You can get up-to-minute news from the BBC. Use the shortcuts to get to the latest sports results. Or check the weather before you go out. The best bit is, you can do it all from the comfort of your own armchair. Or someone else's.
Available now on your digital channels. BBC Text.
Go on, improve your text life.
On the 21st of April, the greatest prize in sport.